And now for our feature presentation. 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 And now for our feature presentation.
Due to some violent content, parental discretion is advised.
We apologize. We are experiencing technical difficulties.
Good evening, sir. You've been selected to receive a brand new TV. At the tone, say your name. 404. Your patience is greatly appreciated. Thank you for calling.
Once that television set, turn it on, right now!
Gentlemen, I've decided to go back.
Fear not, my friends. This will be my greatest performance.
Welcome back to another installment of Interviews on Minds. This is Censorship Sucks, and today I have with me a poet. Somebody who you may know, you may not know. I met him about a year ago in one of the Minds Poetry Group gatherings. And since then, I've bumped into him maybe another dozen times in different gatherings here and there across Minds. Welcome aboard, Satorid D. How are you today?
Hey, what's up? How's it going? I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah, man. It's a pleasure to have you here on Minds. I was just playing one of your videos in the background on mute, but here we are in a gathering, ready to sit down and answer some questions about how you got here, where you came to be, and some of the things you really like about Minds. So first of all, Satorid, how did you get your name?
When I first signed up for Minds, I wanted to use something that I guess meant something to me, and it's a kind of a mashup of this word I first found when I was ditching actually a college class and reading books in the library, and I was really into Jack Kerouac, and he has this book called Satorid in Paris, and I really didn't know what that word was, but for some reason it kind of like echoed in my consciousness. I looked it up when I got home, and it means sudden enlightenment, and it's just something I liked for like a long time, and I used this as a handle for a blog that I was doing probably like 6 years ago. So when I signed up for Minds, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to use it. It was like just like an impulse. Satori, because I like the word, and D for my first name. And from there, it's kind of taken on a life of its own. Okay.
And you've got a second channel as well. Combined, you've got about 6,000 on Satori and about 23 or so thousand on Infinite Imaginarium.
Yeah. Infinite Imaginarium is a project that I did. It's supposed to be like a collective channel. The best way to describe it, it's like a Minds artist collective. It ebbs and flows, but I'm the main admin of that channel. Yeah.
Okay. And what is that channel sort of about? Just in a really quick. We'll come back to it in more detail later. But is there anything behind the name?
Yes. There was an old user called At the Wildcard, and she started this kind of like creative holiday back in 2016, and she called it 24-Hour Imaginarium. And I interviewed her when I was running the Minds Panel Show, which is this kind of like Minds podcast that I started way back in the early days of Minds. And I interviewed her about it, and I really liked her idea about 24-Hour Imaginarium. I was trying to get people involved. So basically 24-Hour Imaginarium, I think of it as like a creative holiday. And for 24 hours a day, you just do whatever inspires you, and then you share it on Minds, and we had a hashtag and all this kind of stuff. And when I was thinking about it, At the Wildcard and the Cartman One were the two main people of 24-Hour Imaginarium. And then I was like, why don't we have Infinite Imaginarium like all the time? Why don't we do this all the time? And I proposed to them that they start a podcast, and I'll help produce it. That I would do all the kind of like technical stuff of streaming and uploading videos, and I was creating images, very rudimentary images at the time. And they said, yeah, they were on board. And so we started Infinite Imaginarium, and they both fell out, but I really liked the idea, so I kept it going. It's this thing that's bigger than the podcast that I envisioned it as. But it's something that I think is near and dear to what I want for Minds, and Infinite Imaginarium is about connecting, collaborating, and creating content for Minds.
Okay, and so it's a collaboration. People can join you over there?
Yeah.
Okay. Again, we'll come back to that in a little more detail. It's just an really interesting subject. So, now, what originally brought you to Minds, though?
What originally brought me to Minds is that I read an article on Facebook in 2015, and I read it, and I was like, "Oh, this sounds interesting, a new social media site," and I checked it out, and that's when I came up with Satorid, and it wasn't anything I thought it was, and I had to like totally reorientate myself of how I want to use social media in a sense. I think it was very powerful that they used not a profile, but a channel. You had a channel, and I kept on kind of like mulling that in my head. Okay, I have a channel. What do I want to broadcast? And I kept on working at that until I started doing all the stuff that I do now.
That's an interesting way to look at it. It's a channel, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what's kind of kept you here on Minds? You're obviously really active, and you add a lot to the community, which is, it's so important to support the art community, which is why I'm really happy you're here. But what keeps you going every day?
What keeps me going is kind of just my internal interest of creating stuff, but also what really like latched on to Minds was open source. Back in high school, I went to a technical high school and I majored in computer science, and I got fascinated with the concept of open source. I read this book called Cathedral and the Bazaar, and it's about open source models versus closed source models and how open source models are just kind of better. And I've always latched onto that idea. So I took the idea seriously. I was like, okay, this is an open source social networking site. So that means I could have influence on the site. And I started Minds Panel Show, and it was kind of like this way for us to have discussions to kind of influence the direction of the site. And I got into conversations with Bill and other members in this early days. And I just went wild with this idea that I'm a co-creator of Minds. And what do I want to put my imprint on Minds? And it wasn't just enough for me to do it, but to encourage other people. And I'm really kind of pushing this idea of collaboration as far as I can, in a sense. And that's what the whole thing about Infinite Imaginarium is about.
Interesting. So now, I met you in a poetry group probably about a year ago, would you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, and man, that was cool. With McVat and everyone over at the Minds Poetry Group, that was really neat. What was it, every Thursday or Tuesday night or something, we would meet up.
Yeah, I believe it was Thursdays, yeah.
For like 3 hours, and just people would come and read poetry or talk about stuff, share art, whatever, It was wide open. Really cool. And so what other groups are you active in, or do you administer or whatnot?
I have several different groups, but I guess the ones that I administer and are the most active would be the Infinite Imaginarium group, and also Psychedelic Sundays. And then I'm in a couple of Fritz's groups, like the Psychedelic Dreams, I Love 420, the Drug War one, and things like that.
Unfuck the World.
Unfuck the World as well.
That's a fun one.
Yeah. He's
got a great sense of humor, honestly. I was like dying when I was interviewing him. It was so fun.
Oh, yeah. I have a kind of funny story is that even before the gatherings, this is why I was so happy when we got the gathering function and why I went nuts with open mic, is Infinite Imaginarium was this concept that we were playing with. And this was before we had gatherings. This is even before the tokens. And I started, actually, me and Gus Spiders were, I think, the first one to introduce Jitsi to Minds. And we started using them as a makeshift gathering that we would do and upload. At that time, we had limits, so we wouldn't upload the full thing, but we would have it. And we had a YouTube channel called Infinite Imaginarium Community. So we had these hangouts. It was like pre-open mic night, and we had Fritz on one time. And this was during the whole kind of scandal with the kind of anime weird shit that was going on, the pedal stuff. Yep. And that like broke that day. And it was so interesting. Like, I didn't really know. And like Fritz comes in, we scheduled this a week ago, and he just starts going like, "Do you know what's going on with Minds?" And then like, I was like, "No, what's going on?" He's like, "Oh, I don't know if I should say this." And we never really live streamed that one, but we talked about it and we put clips of it later. But it was it was fun. Like, well, so me and Fritz and Missy Nomer at this time, we would hang out in Infinite Imaginarium hangouts and have these wild discussions. So it was really cool that you interviewed him, and I'm glad he mentioned me to you. So we had some fun times back then. Yeah.
I was talking to Fretz about some interesting people on Minds that would be worthy of an interview, and yours was one of like 3 names that came up, basically. I only asked him for 3, but, you know. Yeah. But as soon as you mentioned you, it went off. I was like, yeah, man, that'd be really cool, because you've got such great art and such the way you put video together, and we're going to come to that in a minute because I've got some things queued up here. It's why we're going full screen today. So let's talk about the on the subject of groups, the Infinite Imaginarium group, and what, like, can people be a part of that project?
Yes. You know, it's gone into different phases, but really what I'm pushing, and I have this new project that I'm doing, which I'm trying. My idea for groups has always been a more active group or participation, not a group just to like post stuff. Like you make a post of like a video and people watch it, but I want people to interact and collaborate. For All the Crazy Minds video was probably one of the first ones where I had open collaboration, where I used video from Sex, Death, and Rebirth, Break a Node, Mac Volt, and Vot. Oh, there we go. Vot. And we kind of were, I will post the audio, and then people would suggest, Mac was really good at like, oh, you should use this part or use that part. And so like I would go, so there's like 4 different variations of it then at the final version. So like that's the kind of stuff I want to do with groups. I want people to participate, to be part of the end product of the show, suggest material that I could play with. Mm-hmm. And so we did a Halloween episode, and I sampled Sex, Death, and Rebirth. She's a really good, she's been here for a while. She's not as active as she used to be, but she still posts a lot of stuff. She's a pretty prolific artist. She does music, visual art, all sorts of different things, writes poetry.
And what's her mind's name again?
Sex, Death, and Rebirth.
Sex, Death, and Rebirth. Wow, that sounds fun.
Yeah, it's cool.
I love that name. I've got We the Imaginarium queued up. It's 1 minute and 47 seconds. You want to hear it?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
The Infinite Imaginarium invokes the power of 3, unleashing the power of art, expression, versatility, and the pure ecstasy of collaborative creativity and intelligence. Pulling from the wisdom of the past, the present, and the future, rewriting the story for humanity, reprogramming the operating system for society. We are the Infinite Imaginarium. We are the creators. You are the Infinite Imaginarium. You are the creators. Our mantra is connect, collaborate, create. Connect, collaborate, create. Connect, collaborate, create. Connect, collaborate, create. This is media for cultural resistance, a path to social change. This is media not for revolution, but rather for evolution. We are creating an ecology of ideas for inspiration, transformation, and manifestation. We are creating an ecology of ideas for inspiration, transformation, and manifestation. We are creating an ecology of ideas for inspiration, transformation, and manifestation, where beauty has a chance to grow. Because at the end of history, it will be beauty that sets consciousness free.
Okay, guys, now you see why I wanted to interview Satorid. Is that amazing or what? I should have warned you. I'd probably would be going dark when I
no.
when I hit play. So at least I told you how long it would be. But yeah, that's pretty powerful, man.
Thanks. Yeah, this is something that's probably like core to Infinite Imaginarium. She's an old user. She's not that active anymore, but Missy Nomer, she kind of just one of our kind of like collaborative talking sessions. We always were having these weird conversations, and anytime there's a good idea, like I latch onto it and I'm like, okay, let's do it. And she was talking about how her and her boyfriend were talking about the preamble to the Constitution. And she's like, we should write one for Infinite Imaginarium. And I'm like, fuck it, I'm going to do it right now. And so I sat down and wrote that and said, here, this is what we're going to do. It's called Preamblem. We are the Imaginarium. And so it's like the vision statement for Infinite Imaginarium. And I think it's, at least to that point, it's like the culmination of everything I was trying to do. And it's still kind of like my North Star when I'm doing stuff with Imaginarium.
Interesting. That's really cool. So it's like a preamble to a statement of mission, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. now, you've worked on a lot of projects, right?
Yes.
And you've collaborated with, how many people would you guess over the years here on Minds?
Over 20, I would think.
Really?
Yeah.
And what are some of the most fun projects you've worked on?
I would think, I kind of go over a timeline from the beginning. The first thing I kind of really did was called the Minds Panel Show. There's still a channel there. It's not active. In the beginning, I was giving out the password to everybody. Like, literally everybody. I remember my friend Jess was like, dude, what are you doing, Satorid? Like, stop giving out the password. And I'm like, why? She's like, what about if someone hijacks it? It's like, dude, I would just want anybody to sign on and participate. Like, we'll deal with that when we do. And I think still to this day, I'm probably like the only one that uses it. But it was supposed to be for the community. It didn't really work out that way. And I did this, it was called the Crypto Hustle Update, which was a blockchain show that we did, which was pretty fun. Basically, I did it because I wanted to learn more about blockchain and Crypto Hustle. I don't know if he's as active as he used to be. I think he still posts, but he's a crypto trader. So it's basically me asking him questions, and then every week we'll have like what he's doing, but also like I'll bring up some article that we'll discuss. That was actually a pretty early popular thing that I did.
Interesting. It's a little outside the box from your typical poetics.
Yeah, and then that's when, at the same time, I was helping with Infinite Imaginarium. And then once that came, I was like, that's it. This is all I want to focus on. And anybody else could use that, but no one really picked up those things. Crypto Hustle did his own thing. And I don't think he posts it on Minds. I think he has a YouTube channel now or something. But I just wanted to focus in on Infinite Imaginarium. I figured the best way to express myself was in art. Every time I would do the panel show or even Crypto Hustle, I would get so excited about doing intros or transitions or creating some kind of weird visual. And like, that's all I wanted to focus on. It's like, I didn't want to like do any of the work of, like interviewing people or hosting. It's like, I just want to like create all this weird stuff. And that's what I want to focus on. So that's what I did. And Infinite Imaginarium is still evolving. And to tell you the truth, that's part of the reason why I latched on to open mic. Like, it was Mac's thing, but also I helped him produce it. And it was part of Infinite Imaginarium umbrella. Because, I think there's this funny thing that I said that like a lot of people don't know they're part of Infinite Imaginarium. It's just anybody creating stuff on Minds. And you called me a poet earlier, which I do write poetry, and I never thought of myself as a poet. Actually, I had a lot of writing that I did, and I would post it on Facebook, and no one would like engage with it. It was kind of funny because then I'll get high with my friends, and then like it was like this like weird secret. They're like, dude, I read some of your poetry on Facebook. It's weird. Like, I didn't know how to like respond to it. And I was like, I thought like no one was reading my stuff. And then like they would like kind of like confess that I have night terrors too, or this piece of writing like connected with me. I thought, I just suck at this. I should just give up. But it wasn't until I came on Minds that like I had honest engagement. Like I was engaging with other people, like thinking this way or expressing themselves this way, and so I just made an early on conscious effort to be like, that's it. Satorid is a mind artist, and he's going to use every tool that he has to push the expression on Minds as far as I can. And so, we didn't have gatherings back then. So I was first using Google Hangouts, and then everybody hated Google. So then we were using Appear In. Then Gov Spiders found Jitsi. And that early on, we were like, fuck, we need, because Jitsi's open source. Like, if we could broker some deal with Bill and Jitsi, like, why can't we just plug this in? And this was like in 2016. And so when we finally had the gatherings, Gov Spiders is doing his own thing now, but I was just like, fuck me. And Gov Spiders were dreaming that dream early on. And so this is part of what I do,
And that's amazing, man. I mean, because this is one of the better features of Minds is these guys.
Oh, yeah.
And you were kind of the inspiration behind that. You're the guy that brought it to Bill. That's really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, Bill was part of Minds panel show in the beginning. We used to do these kind of weird panel discussions, and so it was like early gatherings. And Bill had this idea before, because even before Minds was even a social media site, he had a Facebook group called Gathering of the Minds. And in high school, he used to do these kind of like art fest, like it was like kind of like a music class art festival called Gathering of the Minds. And so like that's where it came from. It came from people gathering together and expressing themselves with each other. And it's funny because Bill has this old video. This is like pre-Minds. I think it's called The Gathering of the Minds or The Minds. I forgot what it was called. I'll look it up and I'll probably repost it. But it's on Minds panel. But it was so funny because when I was digging into Bill, when I was first interviewing him, I found this video. And it was so funny that we had the same idea. And I remember telling Ghost Spiders, like, hey, have you seen this? He's like, I know, I just looked it up. And it's like, dude, we're basically doing what Bill was thinking. And we're like, this is just funny how we were like on the same vibe of like, this is how we want to use social media. And at that time, like I said, what I said, I would use bubble gum and duct tape to make it happen. We're just fucking using whatever tools we could and like patching it into.
Hey, by the way, really quick,
Yeah.
if someone's watching this on BitChute or whatever, the Bill we're talking about is Bill Ottman. He's the present founder of Minds.
Yeah, that's.
But go ahead.
And so early on, my friend Lee Travis, he actually did a first kind of gathering where he created an embed into the blog feature where you could stream in Jitsi. And so they created that little snippet of embedding it. And so Lee Travis had, I think it was called Meet Lee Travis. And it was like a weekly thing. And we would do it inside of blogs. And that was the only way we could do it. So like, my friend actually created that embed for the blogs at that time.
Or you want me to read?
This was before the update of the blogs. And so we had basically a Minds gathering on Minds before it was this. And it was just so funny how we were like, dude, we don't have to wait. Like, we could do it right now. Like, let's just do this shit and, patch it together any way we could figure it.
So what other artistic collaborations have you worked on? Because people watching this, I have a video queued up here that we're...
Oh, yeah. Probably the funnest one, and that I'm still doing, is my collaboration with Rose. And it kind of evolved. We have this constant discussion that we have in our Slack group. I have an Infinite Imaginary Slack group, which is we use to collaborate. Basically now it's just me and Rose talking to each other. And we talk poetically to each other. I started this subgroup in there called just Embodied Poetics, and I'm like, I want us to just like riff poetically with each other. So like if I have a line of poetry, I post it there, and I want Rose to respond poetically to me. And so we were doing this, right? And then it's kind of funny because naturally we kind of do that with each other. Rose will say something like, "Oh, I can't believe," or I have this quote that I listened to, or have you seen this movie, or my kid said this, or whatever. And then I would respond by riffing on like some phrasing she does. She's so naturally gifted at writing that I get really inspired about how she frames things, how she words things. So I just riff on it, and I use something she says. And then I write like probably a couple lines of poetry, and then she responds back. So when open mic happened, we just started like, dude, we want to do this like in real time, and we want to like, you know, make our mark this way.
Yeah, I watched this all like come to life. In the poetry group, you guys just started like responding to each other's poems. If I'm not mistaken, like she wrote something, and maybe you wrote something back in the same light, and then she built on that, and suddenly it just took off. Yeah. It was really cool. Hey, let's play a clip here. This is a 6-minute video. Guys, I'm probably going to play about 1 minute of it, though, so just to get the intro, so you get the feel for what we're talking about here.
Are you going to read one, or you want me to read one?
No, you could go and read one.
I'm going to read the thing from, you know...
What thing? Our thing?
Yeah. Sometimes, when forced into social settings, I feel the urge to withdraw, hide within the cave upon the cliff, wondering, what if? Within the darkness, I watch the shadows dance across the walls, greeted by the ever-setting sun. When will my task, my mission, my journey be done? Finished, this race I'm ever running, my stamina, the endurance required waning. Like the moon in the sky shifting with time, and I wonder, why am I just another being? Breathing, speaking, feeling, what is this? Come here for another kiss. Calm my nervousness with the feel of your lips brushing mine. Quiet the churning thoughts inside. Stop the wild ride. Snide comments, inner sides. Softening the blows to my pride, reducing my desire to hide. I am here in this moment, free to be me. You take the good with the bad, create a future I never had. In the past falling behind, I don't mind. Twisting labyrinth, new pathways defined as I rewire, reconfigure the algorithms, associations smile, gently guiding the tears into the well, the pain sharp within my side, a blade I know too well. Every rose has her thorns.
Sour times, rose, lead back, essence ripped, fabric worn, time torn, everyone born. Shifting with space like a wandering star, staring at who you truly are. I, why, you, time, die, live, I am. These words bind us together. The ego is the seed for all this need. Peel off the skin until the end. See what needs to begin. It's all in a whisper, something deeper. Echoes of yesteryear. Yes, my dear, this is how it ends. This is how it begins. Always in silence, outside of time. A tear of a whole year falls into the sea of infinity. I live with you inside my head. I write secret notes by my bed. I pick up the scattered memories off my floor. This is a place of power. The gods charged by the hour. A koken. Sound is vibration. Vibration is sound. Creation is a reflection of past orgasms. Imaginarium reflects the future orgasms. Beauty is beauty. The beat is the beat. Breathe in the existence. Drink every last drop. Bliss's last kiss. I live with you inside my head. You echo in the halls of my soul. Of all things unknown and things never told, I sold my soul so I can have this one last dance with you at the end of existence. Eat it a triple stack of your dreams. Before the ego screams, I hold your hair as you puke out all your fears. Yes, my dear, I have always been here. I will always be here. Sorry, my love, this is just the toll of our souls.
Good stuff,
Yeah.
man. It's very powerful, and the way you guys bounce back and forth off of each other. We didn't get to see a lot of that there, but if you guys go, it's the Lost Collective Poetic Expression. You'll find it on, is it the Imaginarium or is it yours?
It's on mine.
Okay. And I'll link to it in the bottom here, and you can see all the back and forth as I scroll down through here, guys. So you can anyone watching will be able to see all the words, and if they pause it and it a few times, they'll be able to read it. But what else do we got here? What other websites are you on? Are you on any other social media sites like as Satorid?
Yeah, I have a Medium blog. I'm on Steemit. There's a Satori YouTube channel, and it's called Infinite Imaginarium Community YouTube channel. And actually recently, with kind of re-engineering what I want to do and trying to get more people involved in Infinite Imaginarium, we created this new project called Bucket Full of Books. So I'm revamping, and I found a new hosting site for our podcast. So it's on anchor.fm, and I'll send you a link, and hopefully you can put that up. And so I'm going to upload our old episodes of our Infinite Imaginarium podcast, but then reintroduce what we're doing now, which is like, think of the collective creative expressions, but like 40 minutes of it. That's how I'm envisioning pushing this thing forward. Okay. Infinite Imaginarium started off as the main project, so it's the collective, but we had projects that we're doing, and we did a podcast, and we had podcasts about art, and I got more and more into my video editing, mashups and sampling, and I just went crazy with this stuff. And I thought, you know what? I want not only to have a podcast about art, but I want the actual podcast to be art itself. And so this is and I don't know if it always reaches that point, but this is something I keep on striving to create, as far as this kind of weird collective expression. I think is the better way to say it than a podcast. But I say podcast because I think it's a more easier word that more people would know. Like if I say, "Oh, I'm doing a collective creative expression," they're just gonna look at me like, "What the fuck is this acid hit talking about?" Then when I say podcast, oh, that sounds interesting, and then they listen to it and they think, "What the heck? All this music and weird shit." But that's what I want. I want to give them an experience, and hopefully I do that.
Now, how do your audiences on other platforms compare to what you have here on Mars?
At one point on Steemit, we had a pretty good, this is funny, this is before open mic, and even before Mac did the Minds Poetry group. I was on Steemit and writing my poetry and trying to introduce them to Infinite Imaginarium, and basically trying to get them over to Minds. But there was a good poetry group that I kind of fell into, and they would have these competitions, and one of them was called a dead poem. And so if anybody knows Steemit, it's really hard because your posts only have a half-life or a life of a week, and then after that it gets buried in the feed, and no one really looks at it past like 3 days. Like if it doesn't get traction, then it's dead. And so people were doing all this work and things were dying, and this guy introduced this idea of a dead post. And so you revamp old posts that you think should get a second look at. And we had like groups, and so like we had this like contest, and so we got more people looking at these old posts. And so the poetry side of Steemit started doing the dead poems, and then we had the competitions for poetry. And so I was getting into that, and then I had this idea: hey, I do video editing. I can mash up, like if you read your poem, I'll create a video for it, and then I'll call it the Dead Poem Society. I mean, it's a mixtape that I did. And so we did that first on Steam. It was fun, but I don't know how to describe it, but it wasn't my flavor of people. I guess the best way I could say it, they were writing poetry like if you were like in a class. And then when I brought this idea to Minds, that's how I first kind of really started interacting with Rose. Like we would just read each other's posts, but we weren't collaborating with each other. And I told her about this idea, and I'm like, I really like your writing. I hope you're interested in this, and send me a poem, and I'll do a video. And it was kind of funny because she's so particular about she's so personal about how she writes, and so powerful on her own that I always feel weird when I edit her stuff more so than anybody's. But I was like, look, this is what I'm going to do. And she liked it. And I was very happy about that. But when I did that, and this is when I in the first mixtape, PA was in it, Rose, and this other user that really kind of doesn't like come around anymore. And then my friend Gov Spiders, who's not around anymore. But those two people, like that's when we first interacted with our poetry with each other. And I did Dead Poems mixtape. Anyways, when I did that video of us on Minds, I was like, fuck yeah, this is what I want to do. Like Rose was like doing something, like it was so different from each other, but also too oddly fit together that like these are my tribe. And like yeah. I was like, I like Steam It, but they're not my tribe. The people, how they express themselves and how, I guess, authentic, but also strange and weird they are is like my cup of tea. And that video just vibed with me way better. And I had way more fun doing that. And I thought, Minds is where it's at for me, at least.
Okay. And what's the core of your message? What are you like trying to get out there?
Well, I guess as far as Satorid is, I'm just trying to give somebody the felt experience of me in that given moment. Like I did this video, it's called The Rhythm of Life, and it was like my best expression that I could when I had this mescaline trip, probably like a couple months ago. And I think if someone watches that, I think like curryhobo was like, oh shit, I love this. And it goes beyond like words. Like I can't really describe it, but if you experience it, then you get like where I'm at. And I think all the best of art gets there. And I really get excited when other people that I really appreciate their artwork engage with my material, and they comment, or they want to like allow me to use their animations like curryhobo does. Mm-hmm. And so that connects me to Infinite Imaginarium. Like our motto is to connect, collaborate, and create. So I think if I share enough of myself in like getting to whatever it is I want to express, my own confusion, my hopes and dreams of the future, the stark reality of the present moment, or whatever it is. And usually something that I do has a little bit of everything, I think. And that connects with somebody, and then we start collaborating, and then we create something new, and we evolve this thread of thought, is really what I'm trying to do.
And now tell me a little bit more about Bucket Full of Books.
Yes, Bucket Full of Books is, I would say, the evolution of Infinite Imaginarium. It's a new project that we're doing that like takes what we have been doing, and I'm hoping to do something, more interesting, whatever I'm interested in. So it's a lower threshold for anybody to participate. You bring your own bucket full of books. Whatever you're reading on, it could be an article, it could be whatever, poetry. You don't even necessarily have to write poetry. You don't even necessarily have to read whatever book we're discussing, but it's to come and to have these strange conversations of things that influence you, things that you're interested in right now. And then later I do these mashup videos. And so it's both a podcast that I'm going to do under the umbrella of Infinite Imaginarium, but also these mashup shows that live on Minds. And they're like think of what I was doing with the open the poetry open mic nights, when I would take other people's poetry and I would do a video of it. This, I'm taking everybody's ideas and everybody's discussion, and then I'm making a full 23-minute show that is like a mashup. I did a Halloween one with Edgar Allan Poe. It was called Poe, Death, and the Dreamtime, and the idea came from Rose. She's being particularly macabre, 2 weeks before Halloween, and she's talking about death. And I was like, hey, why don't we talk about Edgar Allan Poe and death for Halloween? And she was like, fuck yeah, let's do it. And so that was kind of our first one. I have another one that I'm going to release probably on Friday. It's called Reality Hunger, based off of this book about collages. But moving forward, I envision once people get the experience, I want people also to propose ideas. Like, I read this really cool article, or this author really inspired me, or whatever it is, because I'll be like, and hopefully too, people start using the group in the way I think, at least Infinite Imaginarium group should be, where I will post a quote, and then someone connects that to maybe their own writing or a video they saw. For instance, when I did the Edgar Allan Poe, Elliot, who was part of the poetry group, but he was in a main member, connected it to this podcast called the Dead Authors podcast, and he posted it under the clip. So I mixed that into our show that we did, Bucket Full of Books. It's on Infinite Imaginarium channel. Check it out if you think if you're interested in this. And I mix that clip, I weave it into our discussion. So when we bring up that topic, I make a video clip of that and mash it into it. Mm-hmm. And I think it's interesting.
One of your videos queued up right now, which is one of these mosaic of minds, right?
I don't want hive mind. I want a mosaic of minds. I don't want hive mind. I want a mosaic of minds. I don't want hive mind. I want a mosaic of minds. For a whole lot of crazy. For all my aeons, hackers, seekers, truthers. Dope fiends, homeless, political head, hard-nosed scientists, fringe activists, people laid terrorists for questioning their own side, for the programmers and engineers, for the trolls, Zen lunatics and the same middle roadsters, the fringe of the fringe, the outsiders of the outside, the visionaries and the mystics, for the tricksters and the hardcore trippers, for everyday people, the 99ers, shit, even for the 1%ers. Working for the ecology of minds, the ecology of ideas, the ecology of functions, open source for life. And I mean, prior to that, we had crazy people. We had crazy people of all different ideology, you know? We had racist people, we had crazy hackers, we had druggies, we had all sorts of crazy people.
God bless them.
Yeah, and it was fine because there was a good, nice ecosystem of crazy people. I don't want hive mind, I want a mosaic of minds. I don't want hive mind, I want a mosaic of minds. I don't want hive mind, I want a mosaic of minds. I want you guys to be you, and it's fine that we're all different, but in a weird, odd way, we could all fit these pieces together and create something better. You know?
Anyway, you guys get the feel of that. Pretty cool, huh?
What's interesting about that video is there's 6 different minds artists that all put a little pieces into that mosaic. You had the Sex, Death, Rebirth, Break a Node, Mac, curryhobo, and Muse with Scissors, and then of course me. Mm-hmm. So that's, I think, really what gives it its unique flavor is all of us kind of chipping in, which makes it kind of what it is.
And are there any other channels you want to kind of shout out to?
Yeah, I guess those people, and also FrostedRose, who is kind of like my creative partner in art crime. Yes. So I think curryhobo is probably a very underrated channel. He has some great animations, and he's actually done some behind the scenes work with Bill. You should check out his channel.
Okay, yeah,
it's really important.
Got it open in my window right now, so I don't.
Yeah, he has really important stuff that he's been doing. These visuals that he did of the point system is pretty amazing. Yeah, I guess like him and FrostedRose are probably the most influential and to me right now.
All right. Anything else you wanna say to everybody before we hang up?
No, I think that's pretty much a good intro into me, and check me out on Minds. I also hopefully the link to the podcast and interact with us. I think that's the most important thing. Check out my stuff, and if you find it interesting, reach out to me and we could have some fun in whatever way it kind of organically evolves.
Okay, I'm looking at this Minds TV thing on my screen, and it's so good. I'm just going to play like literally 30 seconds of it as a way to say goodbye to everybody. So thanks for coming out, and I'll see you around on some of the gatherings, I assume, pretty in the near future. And what a great time. It was a pleasure to get to know you.
Yeah, thank you.
We call it cutting. It isn't exactly that. To me, it goes much deeper. Cutting implies severing something. It really should be called assembly. Mosaic is assembling something to create a whole, create an idea.
That's the time.